Καλησπέρα κυρίες και κύριοι. Εξελίξεις. Εξελίξεις όπου αρκετές φορές έχουμε παρακολουθήσει τους ρυθμούς που ζουν οι Ηνωμένες Πολιτείες, τα ζητήματα τα οποία αφορούν την άλλη άκρη του Ατλαντικού, πάντα βέβαια σε συνάρτηση με τη χώρα μας, διότι υπάρχει αυτή η συνάφεια. Καλησπέρα εξ αριστερών, Χαράλαμπου Κουφατζή.
Καλησπέρα σε όλους.
Μαζί θα έχουμε σήμερα, ο Χαράλαμπος θα βοηθήσει, θα γίνει η μετάφραση, θα τα δείτε μετά και σε υπότιτλους βέβαια, και στη συνέχεια θα μείνει στο στούντιο για να γίνουν και αναλύσεις, θα έχουμε και συνδέσεις, διότι σήμερα έχουμε ένα σημαντικό καλεσμένο από τις Ηνωμένες Πολιτείες. Πάμε στην Ουάσιγκτον, όπου έχουμε τον κύριο Μανάτο από την εταιρεία Μανάτος. Είναι μια εταιρεία που ασχολείται με το λόμπινγκ από το 1983, έχει έδρα την Ουάσιγκτον. Ο κύριος Μανάτος, να πούμε, όπου ο παππούς του ήταν συνεργάτης του Κέννεντι, όπως επίσης ήταν συνεργάτης και του Τζόνσον, ενώ ο πατέρας του ήταν στην κυβέρνηση του Τζίμι Κάρτερ. Τον καλησπερίζουμε από την Ελλάδα, τον κύριο Μανάτο.
Good evening, great to be with you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Θα θέλαμε να ρωτήσουμε τον κύριο Μανάτο καταρχάς για τον Τζο Μπάιντεν, ο οποίος σαφώς και ήταν κάτι σημαντικό για τη χώρα μας, για την Ελλάδα η εκλογή του, μια και αναθάρισε το φιλελληνικό λόμπι, και αυτό βέβαια ήταν και από την εποχή του πατέρα του, έτσι, όπου ο πατέρας του, ο Άντι Μανάτος, ο οποίος είναι ένας από τους ισχυρούς ανθρώπους, είχε τον δικό του ρόλο στην επιρροή του στην Ουάσιγκτον. Θα θέλαμε λοιπόν να το ρωτήσουμε κατά πόσο ο πατέρας του έχει βοηθήσει, και ο ίδιος βέβαια, σε όλη αυτή την φιλία που υπάρχει από τον Τζον Μπάιντεν. Άλλωστε ο πατέρας ήταν αυτός ο οποίος τον βάπτισε και Μπαϊντενόπουλο, και κατά πόσο αυτό βοηθάει στην παρούσα φάση τις σχέσεις ΗΠΑ και Ελλάδος.
Right. Well, this is an historic time for U.S.-Greece relations in Washington, D.C. We've had a number of presidents of the United States who've been very friendly with Greece, who've had positive relationships with the Greek-American community, but this Biden presidency is a first. We have someone who spent his entire 45-year career in the United States government promoting Hellenism and Orthodox Christianity. When Joe Biden came to Washington 45 years ago in the United States Senate, right across the hall from him was a young man named Andy Manatos, who worked in the United States Senate at that time. He's personally known Joe Biden since then. I got to know Joe Biden's sons, Hunter and Bo, when we were in the United States Senate as pages together. And like my father, stayed in touch with the sons and with the vice president. So we've had this personal relationship. President Biden has also had relations with other prominent Greek-American leaders from across the country. And what we've seen firsthand is this is a person who, first in the United States Senate for many years, then as vice president of the United States, has taken a very tremendous focus on promoting Hellenism and Orthodoxy in a number of areas that we can go through throughout this interview. But it's a historic first because not only does this man know Greece and the Eastern Mediterranean, not only does he know President Erdogan and his capabilities, but he's personally invested much of his career in politics and in government promoting Hellenism and Orthodoxy. He brought with him into this administration, into his White House, people to implement his foreign policy who've been with him throughout his career, promoting Hellenism and Orthodoxy, including his Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, who we've known since he was in the Clinton administration, and then was before then the chairman, when Joe Biden was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, Tony Blinken was his staff director. And again, we work closely with him with favorable policies towards Greece and the Eastern Mediterranean. Also the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, a good friend and also someone who has helped promote these positive policies under then Vice President Biden. He was a national security advisor for Vice President Biden. So the good news is that we start off this Biden administration with the best lineup we've ever had. We'll have to see what that translates to in policy, but it's a wonderful beginning. If I could add one thing as well, with regard to the Joe Bidenopolis, we're very proud that we're the ones who coined him by this famous phrase. When Obama was elected president, we put out a press release that said, while unfortunately we haven't yet had a Greek American as president of the United States, we now have Joe Bidenopolis in the White House, and spoke about his career in promoting Greece and Cyprus and in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Ecumenical Patriarch. So we gave him that title, and he has told us privately, but then publicly, when he received our Oki Courage Award in 2016, he said he took that newspaper article where he was named Joe Bidenopoulos and framed it and put it at his home as the vice president. So we're very proud of that name, and we think he'll live up to it.
Και ο ίδιος ο Τζο Μπάιντεν τόνισε ότι αυτή η οικονομική δύναμη που το έδωσε το ελληνικό λόμπι εκείνο το διάστημα τον βοήθησε να μείνει όρθιος στην κούρσα, ώστε στη συνέχεια να του αναθέσει την αντιπροεδρία, την υποψηφιότητα, ο Ομπάμα. Διότι όταν κάποιος στα προκριματικά δεν έχει επιδόσεις, όλοι αντιλαμβανόμεθα, δεν προκρίνεται για να γίνει αυτός ο υποψήφιος αντιπρόεδρος.
Well, one thing that also we're proud of our relationship with now President Biden is that, as you know, he ran for president of the United States 3 times. And each time, we were there to support him financially, including when he ran against Michael Dukakis, one of our own, a fellow Greek American. But we said to then Senator Biden that he had been such a strong advocate for our issues that we would do what we could to help him raise money and support. And in the end, Michael Dukakis was the nominee. But Joe Biden is a very loyal person and remembers that kind of important support over his career several different times. So he's certainly one of us.
Μάλιστα. Μια και αναφερθήκατε, κύριε Μανάτε, σχετικά με το ζήτημα και της ορθοδοξίας και τις σκέψεις του Τζο Μπάιντεν που είναι κοντά πάνω σε αυτό το κομμάτι, μας δείτε και ευκαιρία να σας ρωτήσουμε, κατά τη δική σας βέβαια άποψη και την πληροφόρηση που έχετε, αν κατά αυτό το χρονικό διάστημα της προεδρίας του Τζο Μπάιντεν και λόγω και των ιδιαίτερων σχέσεων με τον Πατριάρχη Κωνσταντινουπόλεως, τον κύριο Βαρθολομαίο, αν θα επανελειτουργήσει η σχολή της Χάλκης στην Κωνσταντινούπολη, που παραμένει σιωπηλή 50 ολόκληρα χρόνια.
Thank you for this question. This is a very important issue. For outside of the U.S.-Greece relations, there's the protection and allowing for the full functioning of the ecumenical patriarchate. Many years ago, Joe Biden said to us privately, but now has said so publicly a number of times, his expression for his deep love for our ecumenical patriarch. He's actually said most recently on March 25th, when he had a virtual meeting with the Greek American community, he said again that one of the 2 most Christ-like people he has ever met are Nelson Mandela and ecumenical patriarch Bartholomew. That's quite a remarkable statement. Not just does he have a great respect for His All Holiness, but sees him as one of the 2 most Christ-like people he's met. And that's coming from someone who, as chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee and vice president of the United States, has met world and religious leaders all over the world for decades. So for him to say that is really high regard. So we very much hope, and I should also add that it was a historic visit. When he visited the ecumenical patriarch, he was the first sitting U.S. vice president to ever visit the ecumenical patriarch, and he did so again. He returned and visited the second visit. So we're very hopeful that this personal connection with the ecumenical patriarch, his familiarity with Orthodox Christianity, might lead to finally, as you say, the very unjust situation of the Ryoki and the Halki Seminary, but beyond that, addressing even some of the more important issues to His All Holiness, such as his safety, such as his ability, the full functioning of the ecumenical patriarch, such as the succession, not requiring the next ecumenical patriarch to be a Turkish citizen. There's a lot of problems that Turkey is causing for His All Holiness. We very much hope that President Biden and his administration can work hard to rectify some of those problems.
Μάλιστα. Θα ήθελα να σας ρωτήσουμε επίσης, κύριε Μανάτε, σχετικά με το θέμα της Κύπρου και τις συνεχείς απειλές που υπάρχουν από την Τουρκία. Είναι ένα επίσης θέμα το οποίο το χειρίστηκε και ως γερουσιαστής πάρα πολλά χρόνια ο Τζο Μπάιντεν, γνωρίζει καλά το Κυπριακό και στην παρούσα φάση διανύει πάλι μια κρίσιμη φάση, όπως ήθιστε να λέγεται τα τελευταία όλα αυτά τα χρόνια.
Well, here's another issue where we have great hope under the Biden presidency. When then Senator Biden was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, he had then, I guess it was Erdogan, I've forgotten his position at the time, but he was before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And Joe Biden said to Erdogan publicly, until you remove your troops off of Cyprus, I'm going to make your relationship with the United States as difficult as possible. Publicly, he said that. Fast forward to the Obama-Biden administration. The last 2 years of that administration, President Obama gave Vice President Biden the reins to trying to bring an end to the illegal occupation division of Cyprus. Joe Biden personally went over to Cyprus and also to Turkey. Sitting to his right during these meetings was his then National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, who's now the National Security Advisor to the President of the United States. Again, another a connection that's important to this whole issue. So, you know, and unfortunately, he couldn't find a way. Erdogan continued to be as a tragedy as ever. And so the important thing we believe is that President Biden really knows Erdogan. And if there was ever a chance to solve this very difficult issue, we believe it might be under this administration. Now, it's not going to be an easy thing to do, but in the end, the United States needs to find a way to leverage its relationship with Turkey to get Turkey to do the right thing and end the illegal division and occupation of Cyprus coming up on 47 years.
Μάλιστα. Κύριε Μανάτε, το γεγονός ότι η Τουρκία ξοδεύει πολύ περισσότερα εκατομμύρια ευρώ στις υπηρεσίες λόμπινγκ, όπως ήθιστε να λέγεται, στην Ουάσιγκτον, σε αντίθεση με τη δική μας χώρα, την Ελλάδα, που ξοδεύει ελάχιστα ή καθόλου και επαφίεται στις δικές σας χρηματικές συνεισφορές, αλλά και άλλων διακεκριμένων ομογενών που συμβάλλουν, συνεισφέροντας στην προβολή και προώθηση των ελληνοκυπριακών συμφερόντων. Πιστεύετε ότι τα πράγματα ήταν καλύτερα για τη χώρα μας εάν επιδείκνυε τη δέουσα προσοχή και δαπανούσε τα ευλόγους ανάλογα ποσά για την προώθηση των ζητημάτων που αφορούν στο κέντρο λήψης των αποφάσεων, δηλαδή την Ουάσιγκτον?
Look, you're exactly right. And my family has seen it for many, many decades. For 85 years now, Manatos has been working in or with the federal government. In 1964, when Turkey sent its ships to invade Cyprus, there was the famous Johnson letter, turn the ships around. It was my papu and my namesake, Mike Manatos, who was part of that effort. In 1974, when Turkey invaded and occupied Cyprus, the legislation on Capitol Hill to impose the U.S. arms embargo on Turkey was written by a legislative assistant, Andy Manatos, who worked for Senator Eagleton, who passed that legislation in the United States Senate. So we've been involved in these issues on a day-to-day basis for many decades. And you're right, Turkey spends not many millions a year, but many millions a month on lobbying in the United States, not only directly to policymakers at the federal level and even at the state level, but also within the think tanks here. There are millions of dollars spent on Turkish studies, where there are papers written about the importance of Turkey to the United States. And the people who write these papers, when new administrations come in, they get placed in positions of implementing U.S. policy towards the region and towards Turkey. So we're up against a tremendous foe with a phenomenal amount of resources compared to Greece, a country of 12 million, and Cyprus, the country of hundreds of thousands of people in the non-occupied area. But look, I think that if anyone gets it, it's Prime Minister Mitsotakis. He understands the United States. He understands what he's up against. And I think he is focused on this and trying to do what he can to fix this disparity and to really make some headway in Washington, and given the U.S.-Greece relations being the best they've ever been. So we're very excited, frankly, looking at the future when you've got Prime Minister Mitsotakis, Minister Dendias, and the ambassador here, Papadopoulou, and then on the U.S. side with President Biden and Tony Blinken and Jake Sullivan and others. It's really a tremendous lineup. And then you go to the United States Congress. You've got the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Bob Menendez, who's like a Greek-American, given his tremendous work on our issues. And in the House of Representatives, Speaker Pelosi and others. So we've got a tremendous opportunity in front of us. But as you mentioned, Turkey has many resources more than we do.
Βέβαια, κύριε Μανάτε, να πούμε ότι κάνατε μια αναφορά στον Πρωθυπουργό των σημερινών, τον Κυριάκο τον Μητσοτάκη, όπου είναι από τα Χανιά της Κρήτης, όπου η καταγωγή της οικογένειας Μητσοτάκη από τα Χανιά και η οικογένεια Μανάτος, ο παππούς σας, ο grandfather, ο Μανάτος, ήταν από τα Χανιά, η καταγωγή της οικογένειας. Άρα προφανώς έχετε κοινές διαδρομές, έχετε συνεργαστεί ενώ και ως οικογένειες, όπως φαντάζομαι γνωρίζετε και τους άλλους πρωθυπουργούς, όπως ήταν ο Παπανδρέου, όπως ήταν ο Σαμαράς, δεν ξέρω αν γνωρίζετε και τον Αλέξη Τσίπρα, που ήταν τα τελευταία 10 χρόνια, αναφέρομαι, οι πρωθυπουργοί της χώρας μας.
So, first of all, let me speak to the Cretan origin of our family. I'm a very proud Cretan. Nikos Manatakis came to the United States 111 years ago. But I'm a very proud Cretan. I'm Manolis Manatakis. And yes, we're very proud to be from Hania, and very, very proud to have the relationship that we have with the Prime Minister and his family over generations. His father and my father, and now me with the Prime Minister. We've also been blessed to work with a number of Greek governments over the decades we've been here in Washington. Our firm started, like you said, in 1983, and during that span of time, we've worked with all different administrations in Greece, promoting U.S.-Greece relations, both formally and informally. So yes, all the ones that you mentioned, Samaras, Papandreou, even Tsipras, we did some work with his people and are very proud to do what we can in the United States to promote U.S.-Greece relations and promote Greece's role in the Eastern Mediterranean.
Μάλιστα. Άλλωστε να πούμε, κύριε Μανάτο, ότι η βοήθεια και του πατέρα σας στα παλαιότερα χρόνια συνέβαλε αποφασιστικά, διότι βοήθησε και τους πρωθυπουργούς και τους υπουργούς εξωτερικών, όπως ήταν ο Σαμαράς, σε δύσκολες περιόδους, όπου γινόταν διεκδικήσεις στη χώρα μας σχετικά με το θέμα της Μακεδονίας, όπως θα θυμάστε και εσείς πολύ καλά. Ναι.
Yes, that was a very important issue for us. We actually held a huge rally on the Ellipse in front of the White House. I will never forget the thousands of Greek Americans yelling, "Macedonia is Greek." And it was a difficult time, very difficult time for us. Obviously, it was an issue that went way beyond those years, but it's something very dear to our hearts. It's something we worked very hard on.
Μάλιστα. Η πρόσφατη έκθεση, κύριε Μανάτος, του State Department για τα ανθρώπινα δικαιώματα, στην οποία αναφέρθηκε ο Υπουργός Άντονι Μπλίνκεν, ήταν πραγματικά κόλαφος για την Τουρκία, με τους χιλιάδες αντιφρονούντες, με φυλακισμένους, με γκουλενιστές, με δικαστές. Εδώ έχουμε τον Οσμάν Καμπαλά ή τον Ντεμιρτάς, που είναι αρχηγοί κόμματος. Πιστεύετε ότι η έκθεση αυτή σηματοδοτεί με τον επίσημο τρόπο την επιστροφή με τις διοίκησεις Biden και εν γέννη των ΗΠΑ στην περιοχή της Μεσογείου, στα γεωπολιτικά πράγματα τα οποία εν πολλοίς έχει υποχωρήσει η υπερδύναμη κατά την περίοδο της διακυβερνήσεως του Προέδρου του κ. Ντόναλντ Τραμπ?
Look, I think that report echoes what we've heard year after year under the Erdogan administration. Turkey is the world leader in jailing journalists. Obviously, there was the coup. There's all kinds of examples where Turkey is not playing by the rules of the rest of the world. I think where you'll see this administration distance itself is in other ways other than the standard reports. For example, when Turkey had its ships in the Eastern Mediterranean causing problems, you got an immediate statement out of the State Department, which is unusual in general, but particularly with regard to Turkey. But I think you'll see a change in the language. You'll see a change in the response to Turkey's unruly behavior, unhelpful behavior, threats against Greece and Cyprus. That's where I think you'll see a true difference. These kinds of listings of all the problems that Turkey have, you know, you've seen over a number of years, and it really doesn't make all that much of a difference other than to remind everybody that Turkey is not the country that we all hope it could be. And there's a lot of work to be done. But you know, from our perspective, there's so many things that the United States could push Turkey on. What we're hoping to do is raise on the priority list issues like the treatment of Greece, or negotiations or talks with Greece about the maritime borders, or the Cyprus issue, the ecumenical patriarchy, to raise those up on the long list of things that Turkey's doing that are problematic to the United States.
Θα μείνουμε όμως, κύριε Μανάτε, στο θέμα της Τουρκίας, διότι πρόσφατο δημοσίευμα από την κινέζικη Export Bank from China χορήγησε στην κρατική τουρκική τράπεζα Ziraat δάνειο $400 εκατομμύρια, ενισχύοντας την παραπέουσα τουρκική οικονομία σε μια στιγμή που τα συναλλαγματικά διαθέσιμα της γείτονος έχουν εξαναμιστεί, το τουρκικό νόμισμα διολυσθένει και οι σύμμαχοι φαίνεται να γυρίζουν την πλάτη στον αυταρχικό Ισλαμιστή πρόεδρο Ερντογάν. Πιστεύετε ότι η κίνηση αυτή αποτελεί μία ακόμα ένδειξη απομάκρυνση της Τουρκίας από τη Δύση και το ΝΑΤΟ, ή αποτελεί μια ενέργεια συγκυριακή της κατοχικής δύναμης? Υπάρχει περίπτωση η Τουρκία να επιστρέψει στη Δυτική Συμμαχία, ή θα κατευθυνθεί στις αγκαλιές της Κίνας, που θεωρείται ένας στρατηγικός αντίπαλος των ΗΠΑ και της Δύσης γενικότερα?
Yes, I think this is another indication of Turkey's steps further and further away from its Western orientation, further away from the democracy. I mean, you see it there with the relations with Russia, with Iran. I mean, it's every day there's another example of how Turkey is behaving in a way that contradicts the basic values and priorities of free countries like the United States, like Greece. It's really unfortunate. And as I explained to U.S. policymakers, there's no country more than Greece that would like to see Turkey on a straight democratic path, a free society. But day after day, there are examples of Turkey headed in the opposite direction. So it's very disconcerting, and that is truly, in the end, what is the challenge for President Biden and his administration, is try to find a way to leverage the U.S. relationship with Turkey to get Turkey to do what's in its own best interest, frankly. But it's a very challenging time. President Erdogan is, with every day, giving more and more examples of his desire to be an autocrat, to be to rule the world, and it is very unfortunate and very challenging to our efforts here in Washington.
Γίνοντας το κεφάλαιο της Τουρκίας και Ευρώπης, γιατί θέλουμε να δούμε και τα θέματα των Ηνωμένων Πολιτειών, κύριε Μανάτε, θα θέλαμε να σας ρωτήσουμε αν είδατε την συνέντευξη την οποία δόθηκε στην Άγκυρα ανάμεσα στον Νίκο Δένδια και στον Σαβούσογλου, τον Υπουργό Εξωτερικών, ένα το κομμάτι αυτό, και ένα δεύτερο σε σχέση με τα ευρωπαϊκά εδώ ζητήματα, πόσο σας ανησυχεί εσάς το ουκρανικό ζήτημα, διότι βλέπουμε ταλαντεύεται η Τουρκία τι θα κάνει τελικώς, η χώρα μας έχει μια ξεκάθαρη θέση, σαφώς όμως αυτές οι εξελίξεις επηρεάζουν άμεσα και από το πώς θα το διαχειριστεί ο Τζο Μπάιντεν με τον Πούτιν.
Yes, I did. I thought the foreign minister handled himself very well. I thought he was very firm and very forceful, yet also cordial given him being hosted in Turkey. But look, the truth hurts, and that's what the foreign minister did, is he simply pointed out the truth for all the world to see. And I think it was an embarrassment to Turkey, but rightly so.
Ναι, και σε σχέση εδώ και η ερώτηση να είναι για το πώς βλέπει ότι οι σχέσεις ανάμεσα στον Τζο Μπάιντεν και στον Πούτιν θα μπορούσαν να δώσουν μια λύση στο ουκρανικό, το οποίο βρίσκεται σε μια μεγάλη οξύτητα στην παρούσα φάση, και αν ο κύριος Μανάτος στην παρούσα χρονική στιγμή θα μπορούσε και ο ίδιος να κάνει μια πρόταση για να γίνει μια συνάντηση στην Αθήνα. Γιατί βλέπουμε προτάθηκαν διάφορα κράτη, η Ελβετία, η Αυστρία, η Φιλανδία, αν και η Αθήνα θα μπορούσε να ήταν ο χώρος συνάντησης.
I think that's an excellent suggestion, as Athens being a convening place for such a meeting. I'm a little skeptical if that meeting will ever happen, though. I think that President Biden has been on the record very, very, very forcefully sharing his feelings about Putin.
Να πάμε στις Ηνωμένες Πολιτείες, στην επικαιρότητα λοιπόν εκεί και στα θέματα που αφορούν αυτά, κύριε Μανάτε. Είχατε κάνει μία δήλωση εσείς ότι με τον ίδιο τρόπο που διχάστηκε ιστορικά η κοινωνία μας από έναν πρόεδρο που χρησιμοποίησε το μίσος για το σκοπό αυτό, έτσι μπορεί και να ενωθεί, όπως ποτέ άλλοτε. Με έναν πρόεδρο που ηγείται με αποδοχή και κατανόηση, η διάθεσή του αυτή διακρίνεται και από την οικητήρια ομιλία του, στην οποία ανέφερε ότι για να σημειώσουμε πρόοδο πρέπει να σταματήσουμε να αντιμετωπίζουμε τους αντιπάλους μας ως εχθρούς. Δεν είμαστε εχθροί, είμαστε Αμερικάνοι. Εσείς, κύριε Μανάτε, βλέπετε βήματα βελτίωσης σε αυτό το διάστημα? Ήδη πλησιάζουν οι πρώτες 100 μέρες από τον Τζο Μπάιντεν. Πόσο επηρεάζει η οικονομία από αυτά τα αυξημένα μέτρα τάξης? Βλέπουμε και κάποια πρόβλεπτα επεισόδια που γίνανε έξω από το Καπιτόλιο του Ουάσιγκτον ή σε κάποια άλλα μέρη. Και πώς θα βοηθήσει τον νέο πρόεδρο ο έλεγχος της πλειοψηφίας, η οποία υπάρχει πλέον και στη Γερουσία και στη Βουλή. Είναι το πλαίσιο αυτών των ερωτήσεων, και αν πιστεύετε ότι χρειάζεται μια ενδυνάμωση συνταγματικών αλλαγών μετά τα γεγονότα που και εσάς σας προβλημάτισαν. Σας ακούσαμε που ήσασταν πολύ προβληματισμένος στο ότι ένας πρόεδρος ουσιαστικά δεν δέχτηκε να παραδώσει την προεδρία και ήθελε να λιώσει το αποτέλεσμα.
We really believe, and a lot of people in this country believe, that President Biden is a man for the times, for many reasons, but one of which is his reputation in Washington has been one of reaching across the aisle, working with people in the other party, very reasoned, bipartisan efforts. Now, he's a very proud Democrat, as you would expect, being elected from that party, but the hope is that he can reach across the aisle and try to work with many of his colleagues in the United States Senate. Just the other day, he started a meeting in the Oval Office of the White House, and he welcomed his colleagues as though he was still in the United States Senate. It's a little bit of thinking back to those times, but I think he truly believes that. Now, it's not an ideal world. There are still both parties are divided, and divided like I've never seen before in all my years. Our country in many ways is broken. Our government is broken. I mean, you saw it with that horrific attack on the temple of our democracy, the United States Capitol. I was blessed to be there 2 short weeks later when they swore in Biden as president of the United States. But to be there in that exact spot where that attack took place was very jarring, particularly people who spent their whole life in working with the federal government. Our country's got a long way to go. Part of it is the politicians who implement the policy, but a big part, or even bigger part of it, are Americans. I think we all need to listen to the types of words like President Biden said in his inaugural speech. Stop treating each other as enemies, but more as fellow Americans who we may disagree in policy, but we can discuss that very, very calmly and carefully. So our country, hopefully the temperature will lower. I think once we get through COVID, we'll have a better opportunity to do so. We can go out of crisis mode and to really trying to work to healing the soul of this country. And that's truly what I believe this is. It has always been a major benefit to a White House to have both the Senate and the House of the same party. Traditionally, you can pass more legislation, get more of the top priorities of your party done. However, in this case, in the United States Senate is a razor-thin majority. All it takes is one Democrat, as you've seen, to say that he's not going to vote with the president, and you can't pass the legislation. And that's being caused by Joe Manchin of West Virginia, a number of major issues. But even in the House of Representatives, the majority there has gotten very thin as well. And our elections are less than 2 short years away. So this may be a very short period of time when the Biden White House has a Democratic majority in both chambers, and we could there's a very real scenario where as of November 2022, there's a Republican Senate, Republican House of Representatives. So look, I think in some ways that's not a bad thing. If we're trying to get the parties to work together more, find a way forward for this country in a more bipartisan manner.
Και το τρίτο θα μας απαντήσει τώρα, υποθέσω. Χρειάζεται για την ενδυνάμωση των θεσμών στο πλαίσιο συνταγματικών αλλαγών. Ήταν το τρίτο ερώτημα. Αν χρειάζεται ενδυνάμωση των θεσμών σε πλαίσιο συνταγματικών αλλαγών μετά την τελευταία πρωτοφανή γεγονότα και την άρνηση ενός Προέδρου να αποδεχτεί το αποτέλεσμα.
Yeah, so that I think, like I said, this country is going through a very difficult time in many respects, and one of which is just the basic foundations of our government, of our election system, right? And I think you've got a system where you've got now the electoral college system, which allows the less populated states to have more of a say, but also ends up as you had with the Clinton-Trump administration, with her receiving more of the popular vote and Trump winning. And another very close election here. But look, I think this country is very proud to have survived and be the world's leading democracy after hundreds of years. So it's a system that may need tweaking now and then, but one that most Americans believe in. And I think that's what we've lost, is faith in our country. And I believe under President Biden that will be restored. The faith of our country will be stored in the hearts of many. And it won't require major constitutional amendments or things like that. We'll find our way forward. It's going to be messy, but we'll find our way.
Πάνω το ερώτημα σε σχέση με τους θεσμούς, κύριε Μανάτε, που κάναμε και για τον εκλογικό νόμο που απαντήσατε μεν, είναι ότι για πρώτη φορά στις Ηνωμένες Πολιτείες, στην ιστορία όλων αυτών των ετών, όπως είπατε, επιβίωσε όλα αυτά τα χρόνια, πρώτη φορά υπήρχε μια διαφορά 7 εκατομμύρια και παρόλα αυτά για 42.900 ψήφους θα μπορούσε να είναι νικητής ο Τραμπ. Δηλαδή αυτά τα νούμερα δείχνουν πόσο ευάλωτη είναι και η δημοκρατική με αυτό το εκλογικό σύστημα και γι' αυτό λέω ότι αν θα μπορούσαν να υπάρξουν αλλαγές, αλλά προφανώς χρειάζεται μια πολύ μεγάλη ευξημένη πλειοψηφία πολιτιών που δεν υπάρχει έτσι.
Right. I think that it's a very complicated answer as to what is the right thing, and I think there's great disagreement, particularly between parties. But in my mind, energy is better spent on looking at how our country is divided and why it's gotten more toxic and more vitriolic and more, it used to be that you could be friends and one person was for one party and you were for another, but now you see someone as the enemy if they are of a different party. It's a very unfortunate mindset. I think that's where our energy should be spent, is at the heart of Americans and figuring out how we've allowed ourselves to get to this point. I think the electoral college system is a very complicated one, and I see arguments on both sides. But again, I think our energies would be better spent and looking at why our country and how our country has gotten so divided.
Εμείς να ευχαριστήσουμε τον κύριο Μανάτο. Ελπίζουμε φέτος να προτιμήσει την Ελλάδα να κάνει διακοπές με την οικογένειά του, ώστε να έχουμε τη δυνατότητα να τα πούμε και από κοντά στη χώρα μας, κύριε Μανάτε.
I would very much enjoy that, and as all Greek Americans were thrilled to see that as of yesterday, Greece opened back up to residents of the United States. Could I add one more important point here that I didn't mention in my answers?
Of course.
So I had the tremendous honor. Let me back up and say, you may recall that after then Vice President Biden left the administration, his first foreign trip was to Greece in 2017. And I had the honor of introducing Vice President Biden as he spoke in Athens at the Concordia Summit. And I made a point there that I want to reemphasize now. Something that we've gotten to know over the decades of knowing Joe Biden and his family is he, more so than almost anyone else we know outside of the Greek American community, truly has and believes in philotimo, the love of the duty to do what's right, kindness, hard work, dedication. He really embodies philotimo.
Ευχαριστούμε θερμά. Καλό σας βράδυ και σας περιμένουμε στην Ελλάδα, κύριε Μανάτε. Να είστε καλά.
Wonderful. Thanks again for the opportunity. Very nice to be with you.